Hello, welcome to Stageworthy. I'm Phil Rickaby, the host and producer of this podcast. Stageworthy is Canada's theatre podcast, and on Stageworthy, I talk to theatre makers of all kinds, from actors to directors to playwrights, producers, stage managers. If they make theatre in Canada, I talk to them. Some of the people I talk to are household names, and the rest are people that I really think you should get to know. This week, there will be 2 episodes featuring artists from the Toronto Fringe today and Thursday. So let's jump into today, but make sure that you stick around to the end of the episode, and I'll tell you about who my guest is for the second episode. My guest this week is Chris Cracknell. Chris is a former webcomic artist and a composer, is the creator behind the musical Pookumhura Mistress of B-Roll as part of the Toronto Fringe. I love the fact that this Fringe, like last year, is giving us an opportunity to really focus in at one venue for a bunch of musicals. And this show is one of the shows that's part of the musical theater hub, for want of a better name. I know it has a better name, but I can't think of it right now, at Theatre Passe-Muraille. So this is Pookumhura Mistress of B-Roll, featuring my conversation with Chris Cracknell. Chris Cracknell, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you making some time to talk about your show at the Toronto Fringe. The show is, let me see if I got this right, a non-canonical musical adventure of Pookumhura, Mistress of B-Roll.
That's correct.
That's right. I got it all.
Oh, pretty close.
How would you say it?
A non-canonical musical adventure with Pookumhura, Mistress of B-Roll.
Nice. Okay. I guess the place we should start is, what is this show about? It's a very long title. Tell me about the show.
Well, the show is about, I've been a World of Warcraft player since 2006, and it's about my experiences playing the game, but mostly it's about how people use online spaces to form community and to explore identity, stuff like that. And which is why the title, I stress in the title the non-canonical part, because you don't have to know anything about video games or World of Warcraft. It's not the World of Warcraft is just, it's like Sam Malone's bar. It's where these people get together to meet. So, you don't have to, it's not going to explore any of the stories in the game of World of Warcraft. It's really about the people playing and the how people find connection and community online.
What was the inspiration behind this show?
Well, it's kind of, the inspiration is sort of what's happening south of the border politically, with just this rise of bigotry and cruelty, really. And so my friend Brian Morton, who's directing this, and we wanted to write a musical to address that. And I have a web series called Pookumhura Mistress of B-Roll, and I write a lot of its songs with that. And so Brian had approached me wanting to do a musical, and so I gave him a CD of, this is what I've been working on my own projects, just to give you an idea what I've been, sort of what style of writing I've been doing lately. And then Brian contacted me back after he listened to the CD and goes, okay, the plans I had, we're doing these songs. I love these songs so much. We're doing these songs in a musical. So he gave me a list of the songs he wanted in the musical and the order he wanted them in. And then the very next day, I wrote him a story that follows the order of the songs and stuff like that. And what's interesting is, if he had picked different songs from the CD I gave him and a different order, the story would have been different in many ways.
Yeah. It's interesting, the role playing in general, not just online, but tabletop and other forms, they do give you the opportunity to live in somebody else's shoes, right?
They do very much, yeah.
Yeah. So it in a way, role playing is sort of an antidote to the the kind of hate and polarization that we are seeing like south of the border, and even it's seeping its way here as
Oh
well.
yeah, it is, and yeah, and the other thing with role playing is it also gives you a sort of safe way to explore yourself,
Yeah.
right? And there are the one character, Pookumhura, in this. She's a role player, and she kind of introduces the other characters to the concept of role playing and stuff like this. And the other character, one of the characters, is using this game also as a way to explore their own identity and who they are as a person and a player.
I think that role playing in general, however it is presented in the popular culture or even outside of it, whether it's real play, tabletop games that are really popular right now, as well as just like people sharing the video games and things that they play either on Twitch and things like that. I think that kind of role playing, like you said, it allows you to express, to explore, but also the way that these things are shared allows other people to explore along with you.
Yeah, exactly. I like I say, I role play in World of Warcraft, but I also have some friends I meet up with online to do tabletop role playing, and that's a lot of fun. And it's each campaign, you can change your character, who you are and stuff. So I have a couple campaigns ago, I was this really hardened mercenary who was a pyromaniac, and then this campaign, I'm playing a kind of shy and bumbling little hobbit guy, and it's just fun to explore all these. It's basically acting, right? But you're kind of improvising your stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. In Beyond Behind the Fringe Curtains, they wrote about this show and described it as a creative act of faith. What does that mean to you?
As a creative act of faith, I think the faith is that I'm presenting it to an audience that is going to be sympathetic to the message that this play delivers. And there are certain moments in the play where the reaction I get from the audience is like, they get it. They're right on board with me, right? They laugh in the spots where I'm hoping to laugh, and then they stop laughing in the parts where things stop being funny, right? And it's really great. That's the nice thing about theater communities is theater communities tend to be people that are much more socially conscious than more broader forms of entertainment. And so it's an act of faith to put this message out there in front of an audience and hoping they reciprocate.
Yeah. Now, Pookumhura, it was started as a YouTube web series.
It did.
And you started developing that. Was it during the pandemic?
It was during the pandemic because all my creative outlets have been either in the Hamilton music scene or the Hamilton theater scene, and all that was taken away from me during the pandemic, and against other artists too. We all lost that, and I was suddenly all on my own, having to find a way to express myself creatively. And for a while, I fell into this, like many people during the lockdown, I fell into a very sort of deep depression, and I just felt all the creativeness sort of fleeing my body, and it was hard to motivate myself. So I basically said, look, you know what? You got a YouTube account, so just take a gummy, play World of Warcraft, and when you find an NPC, just ad-lib a really awkward one-sided conversation with this in-game NPC as Pookumhura. That's the bare minimum of effort, right? This'll help you feel better. Just do the bare minimum. And then I started doing that, and I did. I felt my mood improving and getting more creative. And then it's like, okay, well, take it a little further, add other characters to this. And then it eventually sort of snowballed so that I'm writing. I wonder if I can film a TV length episode, like an animated series, all just using the game World of Warcraft. And it evolved into that. And then I set myself a goal of, okay, let's do one season of this. And Rick and Morty had 11 episodes their first season. So make 11 episodes of Pookumhura Mistress of B-Roll. And so it was this sort of effort to dopamine, I call it, right? It's like I started off such low effort, but it's like, you'll feel good if you just do this little bit. You'll feel good at the end of it. And then that sort of hit of the happy chemicals made me go, well, let's see if we can do just a little more and just a little more and just a little more. So that's how the web series got started.
Yeah, I mean, we all needed something, right?
Yeah.
Like that kind of like some kind of especially creative people. There's only so long. Listen, I know people who it seemed like lockdown happened, and after a week they were outputting like some stuff. They were like, I'm creating a digital thing, whatever. I'm doing a Zoom play or whatever. It took me like 3 to 6 months before I could like start to do something, because the doom scroll was far too like, it just like the weight
it's like
of
a
it.
siren call.
Yeah.
The doom scroll. Yeah, and I had to get myself out of that and start doing something, and that's where the Pookumhura web series came from. And then that eventually spun off into this play, which, once again, the non-canonical part is you don't have to know anything about the web series to get this play. Sort of stands alone as its own sort of separate entity. So it's not really about the web series, and it's not really about World of Warcraft. It's its own sort of little self-contained story.
Yeah. Now, how long did you do the web series for?
I did finish my first season. I made all 11 episodes, and I'm already writing season 2. So there's going to be a season 2 of Pookumhura Mistress of B-Roll. And I even had a friend, a friend I made playing the game World of Warcraft, did some guest voices in one of the episodes too. So it's fun. And I'm going to bring them back for season 2.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. Now, the audience that goes to see the play doesn't have to know the source material. Don't have to know what happened in the web series. They don't have to know World of Warcraft. But there may be people who know both of those things.
Oh,
how yeah. I guess the question is, how do you hold and make it interesting for both people, the people who know it and the people who don't?
For the people who know it, there's a few deep cuts and it's always fun when a certain joke or something comes up and I hear some people really laughing, because it's like, okay, I know, even if they're not a World of Warcraft player, they're an MMO player, they play maybe Final Fantasy or something, and they know exactly what it's like when that sort of situation comes up in the game. And then there's just plenty of other things that are just more of a human connection thing, and with friendship and stuff like that you don't have to be like I had a lot of people telling me after the thing that, they didn't play video games at all, but they got the jokes in it, right? And even the video game jokes they got because they were delivered in a very human way, so that even if you don't play video games, you've had situations like that in life that sort of play out the same way.
Yeah. Now, was this originally, there was the first iteration of this at the Hamilton Fringe?
It was at the Hamilton Fringe. Yeah, we did it last year at the Hamilton Fringe at the Staircase Theatre.
So now, after a successful run at the Hamilton Fringe at the Staircase, you're bringing this show to the Toronto Fringe. Have did you learn anything from that first run that you are taking into the Toronto Fringe run?
Yeah, we learned a lot about what beats to hit and stuff like that. What jokes needed a little more emphasis and stuff like this. And so there was there's been a few very minor, but a few revisions to the script between now and then, mostly just to make it more solid, right? It's the thing when you do plays is they're never finished. Like you're always finding little ways to tweak it and stuff like that. And our one act, Francis, this was his first play. He'd done some improv before, but he'd never been in a play, and he took to it like a duck to water. Like he was really amazing. So yeah, and it's funny because I play in a band called Babbage Industries, and some of my Pookumhura songs we play as a band. So my bandmates came to see the play, and they've played these songs and they've heard these songs over and over and over again. And my friend Pete, who's the guitarist in the band, he was like, I couldn't believe it. I cried during some of the songs, like these songs that I've heard so many times and I played so many times, but just seeing it on the stage and delivered with that emotion and that intensity, I actually cried listening to this song.
Yeah, the act of putting a song into a play can recontextualizes it and changes it from an abstract song into something that fits within a narrative, and that can change everything.
Yeah, it really did.
You mentioned like Brian Morton is the director. Brian Morton is a longtime collaborator of yours. How did the two of you come together originally to start working together?
Well, back before the internet, there was a thing called BBSs, which were little local computers you called that ran, and we met on a BBS, and we were both musicians, so we got together to start playing as musicians. And back, I guess around 2006, I had a mental breakdown and was hospitalized for a long time. And when I came out, I'm starting to think, what are the things I want to do in life before, the final curtain? And I had done a play when I was in high school, I'd done a few Toronto Fringes in the 90s with a sketch comedy troupe called Skippy's Rangers, where I just played the keyboards for them, right? We did the background music. I'd never gotten on the stage and been the guy in the spotlight. So I was telling Brian when we were getting together to play a tabletop game, because we used to get together at a friend's house to do tabletop gaming. I was just telling him, one of the things on my bucket list is I'd like to just go audition for a play and not worry if I get the part or that, but just so I can say I auditioned for a play. And Brian was directing and producing a play, and he said, well, if you want to skip the audition, I've got a part for you. So I ended up doing my first play. It was called The Suicide, and it was this Soviet play that never played in Russia. And it hadn't played out. It was shut down during the dress rehearsal. And the thing with Soviet plays, because there's so many people they have to employ, right? The play had like 30 characters in it. And there was just no way he'd be able to do this play with 30 characters at the Dundas Little Theatre. So he thought of, let's reconceptualize this play as this is the dress rehearsal of the play that got the writer sent to Siberia, right? And so he said, we're performing it in front of the Central Repertory Committee, who's basically the censor who yays or nays this. And the cast has disappeared, right? Because they're scared. They don't want anything, and they've just disappeared. So we had what we called the clown unit, which was 4 stage people playing stagehands, who were basically thrust into this dress rehearsal to play a whole bunch of different minor roles to, fill up the cast. And so Brian said, also the play has music in it, but the script just says musicians play song. So I need you to write the music for this. And if you could write like an opening monologue and a song that sets up the premise that this is the dress rehearsal of the play. So I did all that, and I had so much fun doing that play that it was like, I'm now doing plays. I'm now going to do acting as well as just music. So it was a lot of fun, and yeah, my friend Brian, who we played together for years as musicians, and he brought me on stage, and he said, I knew you would be a good actor because you, as a musician, you have a stage presence whenever we've performed, and I knew that would translate into acting very easily. So yeah, that he's the one that got me started on the whole acting thing.
He didn't just get you started. He kind of threw you into the deep end and expected you to, he's like, write a song, write a monologue. He's like,
yeah,
you're going to learn how to swim. That's quite the start.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. And I got some pretty good reviews out of that, which made me feel really good.
Nice. Yeah, of course. So Pookumhura explores self-discovery and gender identity. And 2 of the 4-person cast are transgender performers. And I think they're new to the stage too, are they?
No, one is a transgender performer. That would be Francis.
Thank you for the correction. Some of my information is wrong. I apologize.
It's from the Hamilton Fringe. Originally, we had
right.
2, but the one performer had to drop out. For health reasons. And so our choreographer, Mason, stepped in the day before we opened. This all went down the day before the play opened. Our actor had to drop out. And so our choreographer, Mason, stepped into that role, and he nailed it. Like, he did so good. So it's all the original cast that actually made it to the stage is in the Toronto version of it too, which was one of the things. If we had decided if we couldn't get the entire cast from the Hamilton Fringe, we were going to recast the show with all Toronto actors. But when we approached the cast, they were like overly enthusiastic. Like, it was such a boost of confidence to me that they all were just thrilled to be revisiting this play again. It really made me feel.
Yeah, of course. And thank you for that correction. Some of the information I had was incorrect. Now, but initially you had 2, like when you were like first casting, you had 2 transgender actors.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Did that fact inform the work you were doing?
It is very central to the plot of this play that we have a trans mask actor in this one role. So yeah, it was very, very central since this play explores themes of identity and discovery and stuff like that.
Yeah. Speaking of gender and discovery, one of the roles that, correct me if I'm wrong, that you've played was Frankenfurter in the Rocky Horror Show. Is that right?
I was. Yeah, it was a long time ago, 2012. I was pretty thin and young looking. I was. It was a dream come true being in that, and it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun to do. It was an interesting play because there's the back and forth. It's not static like most plays. The audience sits there and they watch and the actors perform. This one, there's expected to be an interaction with the audience, and that was a lot of fun because it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah. Absolutely. It also, there's a difficulty in approaching a role like that because Tim Curry in the
It's
movies
so iconic that
is iconic. And so how
he
do
casts a
you
huge shadow. And
100%,
yeah,
how do you approach that role and make it yours? How did you
yeah.
approach the role?
It was really going into it going, I'm not Tim Curry's Frankenfurter, right? I'm Chris Cracknell's Frankenfurter. There's going to be things that are similar and things that are different. And I played it with a bit more of a cut to it. Like he was not a little more less gentle than the Frankenfurter we saw in the thing. But I mean, the character himself is very I mean, he's egotistical and narcissistic. He's a terrible person. And so, those elements you can't get away from. And I just found different ways to add a little extra bitchiness to it here and there.
It is interesting because the callback from the audience is a very big part of that particular show. And you still have to take it in, not necessarily react to it, because sometimes some of those callbacks are freaking hilarious. How did you approach and prepare for the things the audience might say?
Oh, our stage manager for that show, Amanda, during rehearsals, she'd be yelling things at us constantly. So during the rehearsal process, we were ad-libbing things with the stage manager, because our stage manager, she had been in a number of shadow casts with the motion picture version of it, and so yeah, she knew all the things to yell and and when to yell them.
Yeah. It's a really interesting thing because I've seen a number of productions of the Rocky Horror Show, and all of them have accepted and incorporated the fact that the audience is going to yell back. But right now, there's a revival on Broadway that seems to be resistant to and discouraging the callback, which I feel like is a mistake.
Yeah, it's a bold decision, that's for sure. I for the sake of the show, I hope they pull it off, and it's still just as entertaining. But it's definitely a show that's evolved from its very humble beginnings. Like when you see all the old black and white footage of basically what was Fringe show at when in its birth, and now it's become this huge over the top phenomenon.
Yeah. I remember I saw it years ago at the Bathurst Street Theater. And this is in 90. I'm old, so it was in 91, 92. And I'd only seen the movie before, but the stage show is the movie, but more energetic.
Yeah, and there's things that surprise new audiences that are only familiar with the film, and it's like the biggest one is Rocky speaks, and
yes,
Rocky's because he's mute in the movie version of it.
Yeah, I think that had everything to do with the actor and not so much the role. I do think that the idea of trying to keep people from shouting does threaten to alienate the people who most love the show.
Yeah, it's I wish them the best, but it's like I say, it's not a decision I would make if I was mounting this show, but good luck.
Absolutely. I mean, all I can think of is that both when they did it at the Canadian stage and when they did it at Stratford, they still encourage the callbacks. And if Broadway is too afraid, well, maybe they should. I don't know. I have a lot of opinions about that.
Yeah. The only, we had to encourage the callbacks and all that. The only rule we put on the audience is no throwing stuff.
You can't throw things in live theater. You have to. You can't be throwing toast
and rice and stuff like that.
You can't be rice and squirt guns. That can't happen during a live show.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to ask you, because you're a Hamilton artist.
I am.
And Hamilton does have a pretty distinct arts community.
I moved to Hamilton from Toronto in 1990 and was very quickly adopted by the arts community in this city. It's got a very close-knit art community here. We're very supportive of each other. And yeah, I really enjoy the city. I consider it my home.
Yeah. How do you think that Hamilton shapes the work that you make?
Hamilton, it's because we have these sort of rough edges in Hamilton, very diamond in the rough. In fact, my friend Will Gillespie, who has Chasing Shadows Productions, he actually produced a Fringe play, a musical called Diamond in the Rough, which takes place in Hamilton, and I was in that in that musical. I've been in a number of his productions. And it was basically the premise of that play was Neil Diamond is playing a show at Cops Coliseum, gets bonked on the head, gets amnesia, ends up playing in a dive bar on Barton Street. And it was a really, really fun show. And it very much had this very strong Hamilton vibe to it. And then Brian, he likes to do productions that explore the historical side of Hamilton. We did a show a few years ago in the Fringe called Under the Apple Tree, which was about a shooting that happened in a vaudeville theater in Hamilton. Hamilton, Toronto, and Buffalo were like this delta of vaudeville, big vaudeville theaters. And Hamilton, I think, had 9 vaudeville theaters at the time, and the very last vaudeville theater just got torn down, and it was kind of sad. But at one of these theaters, the Century, a guy who was a stagehand became infatuated with a dancer in the show, and when his affections weren't reciprocated, he shot her, and she survived. And then he shot himself, and with really dark material. But Brian was able to turn it into a play that the weight of this horrible act was still preserved, but it still had moments in it that were very funny and very light. And he had managed the production she was part of was called Under the Apple Tree. And he had managed to track down the original songs from that vaudeville show, which wasn't easy because a lot of times in vaudeville, they'd reuse the song from another show, but just change the lyrics and then reuse it, and then it would go. So I remember I was doing this music for this play in Waterdown. And there was this song that was in the play, and the director wanted me to do a recording of this song. And I couldn't find the song, and it said, sung to the tune of this song. So I go, okay, well, let me search for that song. And then I found that song, and it said, sung to the tune of this other song. And so I went through about 8 different songs, and I looped all the way around back to a song that was telling me it's sung to the tune of the very first song that I did. And I eventually managed, just through sheer Google tenacity, to track down a song where it said sung to the tune of a song that I was already familiar with. And I was like, oh, and so that's the way it was with this Under the Apple Tree, is Brian had to track down, this song was used in this production, this song was used in this production, and stuff. But he went to the Library of Congress, got the files from there, and eventually was able to track down all the original music from the production. So that was a fun one to do.
Yeah, I mean, vaudeville is a fascinating era. It's a fascinating period in theater because I think now we don't realize how massive and how formative that is. I mean, vaudeville is the reason why a lot of the small towns across Ontario and Canada have theaters.
Yes, yes.
And great, gorgeous theaters. Like you'll walk in, you'll like arrive at some like really small town, and they'll have this massive ornate theater, and that's because of the vaudeville circuit.
Yeah, we had a lot of them in Hamilton. And like I said, just this year we lost the very last one, which was the Tivoli, and it had just been left to rot to the point where it had to be condemned. And Brian fought like the Dickens to try to preserve that theater. He's if you ever want to know trivia about theater history in Southern Ontario, Brian's done so much research on that subject that he's the guy to go to.
Yeah, it is tragic that that theater wasn't able to be saved. I think we've lost many buildings because of neglect. Many historic venues, especially theaters, they're expensive to maintain.
They are, and the with these historically designated buildings, like the developers want the land that building's on to raise a 20-story condo, and they don't want to preserve this building. And so they basically just, well, if we let the building rot so it's condemned, then we don't have to worry about it, because you get once it's condemned, you get past all those historic preservation laws and everything like that, and you can just bring it down.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I think there's a history in a lot of cities of that kind of demolition by neglect of historic buildings, because they don't want to maintain them and they would rather like build a new condo, so they just wait.
Yeah, exactly. It's a waiting game.
Yeah. I'm interested in, because I think that I've performed in a bunch of different Fringe festivals across Canada. And one of the things that you learn really quickly as soon as you go to different Fringes is that each Fringe festival is so different from the next.
Yeah.
What they love at the Montreal Fringe is so different from what they love in Toronto, what they love in Winnipeg, Edmonton, and all of these other Fringe festivals all around.
It's a leap of faith to do take a play that was successful at one Fringe festival and then move it to an entirely different city. It's a big leap of faith.
Yeah. Well, what I mean, let's talk about that, because you have this show that was successful in Hamilton, and now you're doing it in Toronto, different city. What is it? Is there something that you are okay? I'll ask you two questions. One, is there something you're most looking forward to, and is there something that you're most concerned about?
The thing I'm most looking forward to is, and my Toronto Fringe experience is like, it was in the 90s, right? That was the last time I did a Toronto Fringe. And I was, like I said, with the sketch troupe Skippy's Rangers, I was the keyboardist. And but what I did notice at that time was the Toronto theater community has a much younger audience than Hamilton. Hamilton's audience, we always joke that our theater audience is the blue hairs. I mean, there are a lot of young people in Hamilton that love theater and stuff like that. They're mostly people that are actually in the theater community itself, and we're all going and seeing each other's plays kind of thing and supporting each other. In Toronto, you at least from my 40-year bygone experience, it was a much younger, more diverse crowd at the theater. So I'm looking forward to that. Toronto has a larger population, and there were people who were World of Warcraft players in Toronto that were saying, "Oh, I wish I could make it to Hamilton to see this play, but I just can't swing a trip to Hamilton." So hopefully they show up at the play. And then the biggest sort of knot in my belly about performing in Toronto is we're an out of town act. We don't have like in Hamilton, the theater community supports each other and stuff like this, so that we have like this huge buildup of support just built into the community. And in Toronto, we're coming in as the plucky outsider, with almost no established history with the city, really. Like Brian's done some Fringe productions in Toronto, and like I said, I did like 40 years ago, but we're basically babes in the wood here.
One of the things about the Toronto Fringe is, yes, there are the darlings, and there are the things that if, for example, if Sex T-Rex has a show, that's selling out, right? They're brilliant. Yeah. It's going to happen. But usually in the past couple of years, there's been a lot of like, I've never heard of these people before. So it's really fun and fascinating to see what takes, and the as with anything at any festival, the cream does like rise to the top. It is something that you can rely on.
Yeah, I'm hoping for that. It's good. Like, we're in Theatre Passe-Muraille, and it's all musicals in this theater. So we've got this sort of musical theater community happening centered around this, and we're part of the Alliance for Canadian Musicals. So we're sort of building this camaraderie with the other acts in our venue and stuff like this. And it's a theater that people who want musicals go to this theater to watch musicals. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah. This is the second year that Theatre Passe-Muraille has been like the home of the musical at the Toronto Fringe. And I think it's an exciting development. And I think it's something that shows it shows the breadth of the musical talent that we have just in Toronto and in Hamilton and in this country. And I think it presents a huge opportunity for musical theater artists and creators.
Yeah. It's like I say, it's very exciting to be part of the Alliance for Canadian Musicals.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about Hamilton once again, because when I was at the Hamilton Fringe, I think it was 2016, with my solo show. It was in the midst of Hamilton's Art is the New Steel phase, which I think at least government has forgotten about by now.
Yeah, but we still there's a weird thing that sort of happens with art movements where it starts off with like the artists and the community sort of building this momentum, and then it's the municipality sort of turns the reins over to corporate interests. And then the corporate interests, they make it like really huge, but then it becomes sort of unsustainable, and it sort of collapses in on itself. And then it's up to the community to get that momentum going once again. Like it's happened in Burlington with their Sound of Music festival. It originally, the Sound of Music Festival was for Golden Horseshoe acts, all Southern Ontario acts. And then it got to the point where if you were a Canadian artist, let alone a Southern Ontario one, you were down the list because, we've got Tokyo Police Club playing here and stuff like this. So, and then now it's the Sound of Music, I believe it's collapsed again, right? And now it's returning to its roots of being, let's be a Southern Ontario focused music festival.
Yeah. I mean, this cycle of the artists make something cool, and then the corporate interests come in and they price out the artists, is the story of Queen Street West in Toronto. It is the story of artists. It's a rundown area. The artists make it cool. Suddenly the buildings get bought and the rents go up. So the artists move further down the road. They make that area cool until you've got the Gap on Queen Street West, where once there were these super independent stores and bars and all this sort of stuff. It is it is the cycle of the arts, and then eventually they all close down, and we're waiting for the artist to come in and start revitalizing again. That's
Yeah.
kind of the thing.
It's very cyclical. It's very much an ebb and flow, and so you have these times where it seems to grow and then contract and grow and contract.
Yeah, for sure. Now, as somebody who's been in Hamilton's art scene for a while, both the music and the theater side, can you think of what's changed in the scene and what stayed the same? Is there something that jumps out at you for each?
Yeah, it's a lot of venues in Hamilton have disappeared. Like Hess Village, back in the 90s and early 2000s, Hess Village in Hamilton was the place for arts, right? It was all these bars had live music, and I used to play there all the time. And then it became the college drunk spot, right? And all the college kids came in there, and it became very, very crowded. And then the bar owners were like, well, why are we removing 5 tables from our real estate to put a band when this is the spot where all the college students come? We can put those tables back in, get more drinking customers, and just play a CD, right, on the stereo. And so Hess Village ended up losing a lot of its small and very quirky live music spots, and then it moved for a time to Augustus Street, and then that also having a band meant less table space for customers. Yeah, it's kind of the gentrification sort of cycle where it's like the artist made this location what it is, and we don't need them anymore because this location itself is what's popular, and so get rid of them. Yeah,
it's like they are very quick to forget that the location. It's not that the location is popular. The location is popular because the bands were there.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Now you've taken the bands away and just assumed that the popularity will continue, and it seldom does.
No. Although Hess Village is still kind of the college drunk spot in Hamilton, but it's no longer the art spot in Hamilton.
Well, because the people who go to the college drunk spot are not the people who are looking for the art. They're not the people who are looking. They probably don't even care that there's a band. They're there to get drunk. And that is, if that serves them, and that those bars, I'm sure they're doing very well because Hamilton is a college town. But there are venues where are the bands playing? I mean, it's not all Mills Hardware. It's like other places too. Like what's happening in the music scene?
It's kind of interesting because one of the next week I'm playing at a person's house, and she likes Shakespeare and music, and so she has she'll in her house she'll put on a play, one of Shakespeare's plays, and it's like you go to the front porch for this act, and then in this scene you go to the backyard, and this scene is there and that, and then in between when things are moving and setting up, she has local musicians play. So there's things like that which are kind of interesting going on. And then there's a few places still left that are hubs, but it's definitely shrunken a lot from its heydays in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah. I mean, I do remember back in 2016, I went to Hamilton for 2 of the art crawls before Fringe. And art crawl, I think, at least at the time, to me, it was fascinating because I know my friend Stephen Neer told me that it's entirely organic. It's not like the city organizes it. It just happens. And I've been walking around, and there's a band on a porch, and there's a band on a roof, and there's like all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating arts happening, which I think I've never seen anything else like it.
Yeah, we have twice a year we have Super Crawl, which is the more sort of
it's the more organized. It's not
yeah, it's not
the
just
free
a
for
thing.
all.
But then each month we have on a Friday we have this very organic thing where the galleries themselves open their spaces and stuff like that, and it's very organic. And then twice a year we have once in the spring and once in the fall we have the Super Crawl, which is they close off they actually close off the streets in downtown Hamilton, and it's packed there. And then it's a little less organic because acts are booked to be, so you're not just seeing this guy who showed up with his buddies and are playing bluegrass or something like that.
Yeah. It's a difference because the art crawl is essentially barely controlled chaos.
Yes.
and Super Crawl is entirely organized, so it doesn't have that chaotic thing that happens in the organic.
Crowded. Like the chaos just comes from the size of the crowd, not really necessarily the weird eclectic combination of artists that just happen to come together at this one spot for a moment. The Super Crawls remind me of a few years back I did Toronto Has the Nuit Blanc.
Yep. Yeah.
And I performed at a venue on Queen West for Nuit Blanc, and it kind of reminds me a bit of, it's not quite Super Crawl, but it's also not quite just art crawl. It's like almost an in-between kind of thing.
It's for sure an in-between thing, for sure. All right, Chris, my last question for you is, you are a performer, a musician, a composer, an illustrator, a webcomic artist, and a theater performer. I've already said performer, but now those are things that sort of came together gradually for you. You were not a theater performer, you were not in theater, and then you became. So how does being a multi-hyphenate affect the art that you currently make?
It's one of the things I find, like, because of my neurology, I have autism. When I get interested in something, I don't half-ass it. Like, I get really interested in it. Back in like 2012, I think, I became interested in 3D modeling on the computer. I thought, oh, this is kind of neat. It's, building, it's like model kit building, which I loved as a kid, except I don't have to buy model kits. I can just build my own little thing. And I wasn't into 3D printing then. So if I had been, that my house would probably be filled with models. But it's like I just threw myself into it, and then developed this expertise in 3D modeling. And then it's like one day it's just like, okay, well, I turned that off now. Now I'm going to do something else and throw myself into learning this. But I still draw on the things, like with the Pookumhura web series. I do all the filming actually inside the game World of Warcraft. I've set up these buttons on my keyboard that when I press the buttons, the character will perform a certain character animation. And so I'm puppeteering the characters in the play so that they sort of puppet to the lines I've recorded. The voices, the lips, of course, don't sync up perfectly, but I look at it as, well, this is the English dub of what was originally done in Gnomish, right? So it's a foreign film that's been dubbed into English, right? And so, but when I became obsessed with 3D modeling, I still use that to build the title cards, because I made my own little 3D models that I used to build the title cards for the episode. So even though I'm no longer really doing the 3D modeling, I still keep that sort of thing. And same as with the webcomic, when I started that in 2001, I didn't know how to draw, but I had a friend who did a webcomic, and I did a little guest strip for his webcomic. And then I was like, that was fun. I'm going to continue doing this. And I threw myself right into it and then taught myself how to draw. And then when that passed, it's like, I still know how to draw. I got that out of it, and I'll still do illustrations for things where I need an illustration. So it's kind of handy. It's like a lot of artists now are just like, they want to use AI to do the things that they can't do, right? And for me, it's like, I'd rather learn to do the thing that I can't do right now, and eventually I'll get it, and then I don't need to use the AI for anything if I can do it myself.
Yeah. I think for me, anybody who says that they're an AI artist and you come across them, and the issue that I have had as people try to evangelize and convince us that AI is a necessary thing is that the art, in addition to not being very good, is meaningless because nobody put any effort into it.
Yeah, no, you're not the artist, you're a client.
Yes.
Right. It's like like I've done illustrations for things. I rarely do it because I don't like to do that. I don't like that client relationship, artist client relationship, because I'm a very stubborn person at times.
Yeah.
And so when something conflicts with my artistic vision for a thing, I can really dig my heels in, and it makes that client artist thing uncomfortable. But when you're using AI to create art, you're just the client who's telling the artist, no, make the nose a little bigger. No, make the nose a little smaller. No, make the hair pink now. No, make it blue. Right? You're not the artist who's doing that. You're just the guy bugging the artist.
Yeah. It is even, to me, it's even worse than that, because not only does all the work come from stolen material, not only it's not just make the nose bigger, it's completely redraw this. It will never be the same as it was the first time.
No.
There's so many things about it. And if art doesn't cost you, if art doesn't cost the artist, it means nothing.
Well, it's ultimately the thing that for me means AI art can't be art is art has to have a vulnerability to it, right? And there is no vulnerability in AI art, because if somebody doesn't like it, you say, well, the technology just isn't there yet, right?
Right.
It's the technology's fault, So you have this, you can take credit for all the things people like, and then dismiss everything as, well, the technology isn't there.
Right.
And that's not art. Art is putting yourself out there, putting your vision out there, putting your message out there, and being vulnerable and accepting that some people will love it and some people will hate it, and you are opening yourself to that criticism as an artist, and AI just puts a shield between you and that criticism.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to Pookumhura at the Toronto Fringe.
I had a great time. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Stageworthy. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure that you like this episode, leave a comment so that I know that you were here. And if you've enjoyed Stageworthy in general, please hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so that whenever a new episode comes out, you will get notified. If you're listening to the audio version, make sure that you're subscribed. Go to your favorite podcast app, search for Stageworthy, and hit the follow button. And while you're there, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure that you leave a rating and review. Your ratings and reviews help new people to find the show. They'll boost the podcast up in the algorithm so that more people have a chance to find it. So if you do that, I would be really grateful. And speaking of gratitude, let me talk about my Patreon. I cannot do this without the people who've chosen to back this show on Patreon. Podcasts are available for free, but so much about them still costs money. It costs money to have a website, to have a host in place, to host the audio files. They could be distributed to all of the podcast listening places. Editing software costs money. Transcripts cost money, and I really feel that transcripts are important, both from an SEO point of view, which is less important to me, but also for people who may be deaf and hard of hearing, so they can also enjoy the conversations that I'm presenting. And so, if you would like to help me to make this show, because that's what my patrons do, they're helping me to make this show, please go to patreon.com/stageworthy and become a patron. Patrons get early access to episodes. We can have conversations about things that are going on in the theater world. And you know what? The more people who join the Patreon, the more I will be able to offer to the patrons. So please, if you want to be part of that, if you want to help me to make the show, I would be so grateful. Go to patreon.com/Stageworthy and become a patron. My next guest this week is Marla Turgeson. Marla is a Calgary-based singer-songwriter, theater creator. This is her first show, her first musical show, and it is called Sinner. It's her debut theatrical work, and I look forward to sharing that conversation with you on Thursday on Stageworthy.